Well, yesterday, the MP for Kid Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, Philip Davis, suggested that the outbreaking cases on Kid Island were a result of a testing error. The issue taking center stage in Parliament today as government maintained that testing was not compromised. Here's that report.
One test came, the same test that was sent. Don't they want to test it again?
There was no second testing.
But you don't know.
It was the same test.
No, but you don't know.
I'm telling you, the same test. The result of it was sent was the same test that said something else. So one thing. So what's foolishness talking about?
Until the member,
A shouting match erupting across the floor of Parliament today between Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and Opposition Leader Philip Davis over a recent explosion in COVID-19 cases on Kid Island, the area where Davis represents.
First of all, a person who had the symptoms, he was tested. The results were sent to wherever it went to, and it was communicated to Nassau, to Kid Island, that those persons who were tested who negative. They were released from quarantine into the community, and now we have this outbreak. Because later on, the same person, one or two of them were told that they were positive. And that is the fact.
Prime Minister said it was Davis who erred because he did not know the science behind the transmission of the virus.
That I could be tested today and the test negative because my viral load is not at the level to be detected. The following day, the test could be positive. That does not mean that the lab made an error.
Honorable members,
I'm giving you a lesson. I'm giving you a lesson in science, of which I said you don't understand. A lesson in science.
Now, the two went back and forth on the issue for quite some time, also prompting a response from the health minister.
what was the chain of custody of that information? Mr. Speaker, Honorable members. The National Reference Lab of this country, Mr. Speaker, is run by the most able and capable individual, the daughter of the member for Engliston.
There were 17 new cases recorded on Kid Island on Tuesday. And while there were calls for Davis to withdraw his comments, the speaker rose to his feet to restore order, cautioning House members on their behavior.
But we cannot maintain the order and the quorum if members disrespect each other and disrespect the chair.
You got to listen to your heart, listen to the beat.
We begin tonight with team coverage of the new fiscal budget presentation made in Parliament today with our Theo Seeley, who's live at the House of Assembly, Francesca Brown, with the opposition's response and reaction with our Janelle Longley, who joins me live in studio tonight. Now, today's budget outlining a number of new projects expected to be rolled out by government to help in the rebounding of the country's economy that suffered a significant blow due to Hurricane Dorian. That cost an estimated $2.5 billion, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic that saw a price tag of $290 million, with an additional $1 million lost in revenue. While there were no new taxes announced, the Prime Minister did reveal that government is currently reviewing our present tax structure. We get the latest on those new programs announced by government from our Theo Seeley, who's live at the House of Assembly. Theo?
Janaea, a 3-hour presentation from the nation's leader, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, today outlining government's 2021-2022 fiscal strategy. The Prime Minister indicating today that government wants to transition from an unemployment benefit assistance program to an aggressive employment assistance initiative.
Through this new initiative, businesses will be able to apply for a VAT tax credit to cover the salaries of up to 10 new employees.
He expects 250 businesses to apply, in turn hiring 2,500 new employees. And what's government spend on the employment program? $40 million. Next up, small and medium-sized businesses will have access to major duty concessions.
On all items needed to start or expand their businesses, including on the first stock of inventory.
Those small businesses will have access to concessions made available to mega resorts once their annual revenue is less than $5 million. Now, third on government's 7-point plan, the expansion of the small business sector.
We will make $250 million financing available to the SPDC over the next 5 years, starting with its first injection of $35 million in this upcoming budget.
Objective 4, multi-million-dollar healthcare sector upgrades. $10 million to be spent on essential items needed for the COVID-19 fight, $19 million for upgrades at the Rand Memorial Hospital, and $70 million to be spent on the Princess Margaret Hospital, all made possible by a $100 million loan from the World Bank.
This will allow us to pursue the project at an accelerated pace over the next 18 to 24 months.
Then there's the enhancement of access to land and a free tax zone in the southern Bahamas. All supplies needed to build homes or businesses within the zone will be duty-free.
It is to spur immediate economic activity in these islands.
Number 6 on government's list, $1 million on the further digitization of government agencies. And finally, a review of government's tax system is in the pipeline. No new taxes introduced today, but the tax review, once completed, could possibly change that. And as far as the stability of the Bahamian dollar is concerned,
the Bahamian dollar, Mr. Speaker, has not and will not come under any threat of devaluation as long as this administration remains in office.
Meantime, the opposition Progressive Liberal Party says today's budget left more questions on exactly how the country will rebound than the answers they provided. Our Francesca Brown has the latest. She's live tonight from the PLP's headquarters. Sani, what was their reaction to today's budget?
Well, Janaea, the Progressive Liberal Party, more specifically the party's deputy leader, who is also the shadow minister for finance, called today's budget weak and disappointing. Now, while acknowledging that Hurricane Dorian, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, has caused a negative effect on the economy, Cooper says that the government's failed policies made matters worse.
It is a short-term budget for survival of the FNM. Not a visionary piece that is designed to bring relief to people who are suffering, or to set a path to growth, to ensure that we don't become a failed state.
People are living in cars. Come by my office. Single mothers don't know tonight how they are going to feed their children. Persons who are unemployed are seeking unemployment assistance from the government, but they are being told that since they got assistance during Dorian, they cannot get assistance now. These are the realities on the ground. Yes, there were some payments, but we've indicated then and now that the provisions were not robust enough and they didn't come quickly enough, and in many cases they didn't reach the people who needed it the most.
It was also announced that the government borrowed $100 million from the World Bank, which the Prime Minister says will provide COVID-19 relief and lay the foundation for a resilient economic recovery. Cooper is calling on the government to release the details of that agreement.
We don't trust the FNM as they are desperately poor negotiators. We call on them to table the particulars of this and all other new loan agreements in the House of Assembly.
In his communication, the Prime Minister also said that microbreweries will now benefit from excise tax reductions. This, Cooper says, is concerning.
This could very well be driven by the lobby of special interests. We're going to look into this further. We're going to investigate who are the owners of these microbreweries in the country. We found it curious that during the last budget administration, there were exemptions for microbreweries. And during this budget communication, they are expanding these exemptions for microbreweries.
And despite the Minister administration moving to introduce marijuana legislation, there was no mention of it in the Prime Minister's speech. Cooper says that's because it was all just an election gimmick.
There's no big picture thinking on the issue. It's narrow, politically driven gimmicks, if you will, and therefore I am not surprised that when it comes to the creation of new industries, when it comes to ideas for economic growth, that this wasn't touted as one of the things that could help to benefit the Bahamas.
Well, Janaea, the party maintains that they are not all about criticizing the government. In fact, Cooper says that the party has an economic recovery plan of its own, and you can find that plan on the party's website, plpbahamas.org. Back to you in studio, Janaea.
Well, approximately 200 more houses to go as government continues its demolition of shanty towns, breaching the law and the country's building code. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works Desmond Bannister once again defending the move, maintaining that government has a job to do. And he says what happens to these residents once those buildings are demolished are not his problem.
That may sound harsh, but when they went out there and built in direct contravention of the law, they were new or ought to have known that they were breaching the law of the Bahamas. They've gotten notices now for more than 28 days and they've done nothing. It's very important for them to utilize their resources, whatever resources they had to build the house in the first place. They could have applied in accordance with the law, gotten permits, and be able to lawfully construct something just the way any of you all would do. We will be spending your money to rescue people in the midst of a hurricane if there's another hurricane in Abaco. In addition to that, there's no sanitation facilities. These are diseases waiting to happen.
Well, the minister says government is also hoping to begin action in the capital soon.
There are a number of houses in New Providence, shanty houses, that are the same lines. You all might have heard me speak about it. Last week I got a complaint from one Bahamian. Every week I get complaints from Bahamians. Last week I got a complaint from a Bahamian man, who had gone to the bank, borrowed money, purchased 2 lots. During the pandemic, he could not do anything on his property. Went back after the pandemic and found 19 shanty houses on his lots when he's trying to be able to get additional money to be able to build his home. That is what we're facing. It's a very serious issue. We take it seriously and we're going to carry out our mandate in accordance with the law.
In other news tonight, the United Nations is shoring up its commitment to ensure that basic human rights, dignity, and respect are upheld no matter the nationality. UN officials arrived in the capital this week to begin an assessment of government agencies and undertaking to ensure the same. Our Janelle Longley has that.
In line with the United Nations goals to ensure that the most vulnerable among us are treated with basic dignity and respect, Gary Connolly, resident coordinator of the United Nations overseeing the Bahamas and several other Caribbean islands, and his delegation took a tour of the Bahamas Detention Center on Friday. This, he says, is the beginning of a much larger mission.
The purpose of the mission is more broadly to discuss with the government the cooperation and the partnership with regards to development and, of course, addressing the recovery from COVID. And we've had excellent meetings with different stakeholders from the private sector, from civil society, and actually from governments as well. And of course, in discussions with the government, we agreed that we would come and visit here today because we know this is an important issue.
The media was originally invited by government to join the delegation as they assessed the facilities. Upon arrival, however, teams were informed that the plan had changed. Media was not even allowed in the gates. Connolly was asked his thoughts on the detention center's condition.
Is that the government is very committed to this dialogue and is very interested in working with us to see how we improve the standards and the conditions for these people. I won't get into more specifics than that today, but again, I'm very, very happy with the process that was followed, with the level of transparency we were given, and the level of ongoing discussions that we're going to have.
Now, while here, the UN officials are also planning to travel to Abaco to assess that shantytown demolition.
Now, obviously, there are a lot of things to consider. The risk to the population itself, the risk to the community. And governments in every country have to make these difficult decisions. But when we have the opportunity to have a space where we can discuss together, we're able to find solutions that are, as I said, that allow us to have the most optimal outcome for the populations under these circumstances. What's important for us is that people all over, in any circumstances, are treated with dignity, have due process, and their human rights are respected. That's the fundamental of what we're here to preserve.
According to Connolly, a report will be presented to the government of the Bahamas once these assessments are complete. Janelle Longley, Eyewitness News.
So this for me? Hello? Yeah, this is Franklin Campbell. Social service, yes. How can I help? You need some assistance? Well, we don't have any money in the treasury right now. Things are a little tough, you know. Yeah, there's no more money for assistance right now. No, yeah, I know. But you could check back next week. We might have something then, you know. Okay. Ring it again? Yes, this was Franklin Campbell. Yes, social service. I just told somebody there's no money right now. Can you check back next year? Yeah, I know your house burned out. I know, and I'm so sad about that. You know, we can put you up for about 2 days. You know, yeah, we'll do for 2 days. Okay. All right. Don't call back. Don't call back. Okay? Hello? Listen. Who's this? Oh? John Pierre? Ça qu'on fait? Mais dormi? Ça quoi c'est? Now foolé. Yeah, what happened? They say the government's breaking down your house? We breaking down your house? Oh, you live in Shanty Man, hey, my buddy, that's no problem. That's no problem where you want to stay. Bahama? Okay, I can put you up in Bahama. How much are y'all? 19? 19 y'all live in the house? Or 19 adults? How much children? 43 children. Okay, but look here. I can put y'all on the 3rd floor in Bahama. Okay? Get all your Georgie bundles. And don't carry the gas tank. No, you can leave the gas tank. The mattress you can leave. They got mattress there. But you, my people, mares on me. Okay. Saku, you straight. Tell everybody that Franklin got you. I got you. I got all my people. Yeah. Call me back anytime. Okay. All right. Yeah. I can save this number. All right. My people. I hope the rest call. All right, let's go.
The country's largest tourism employer announcing today plans to let go more than 700 employees. And while the move paints a grim picture for the tourism sector heading into peak months, officials say they're optimistic. Our Janelle Longley has more on this.
Despite what he says is an unfortunate exercise by the Atlantis Resort to make some 700 employees redundant, Minister of Tourism Dionisio de Aguilar says the bright side is that these workers can finally move forward.
I remember when I was campaigning in Freetown, there was a gentleman who told me he did not want to go back, he just wanted to be severed. He wanted some finality to his relationship at Atlantis. So for those persons, I think they are delighted that that relationship has now been concretized.
The resort's president, Audrey Oswald, in a statement released today, cited the uncertainty of the global pandemic, which she said has led to drastic cuts from nearly every corner of Atlantis. The hotel prior to these cuts had a total of over 7,300 team members, approximately over 3,000 of which have been called back to work. And the Minister of Labor, Dion Folks, is hoping those remaining will also be called back soon.
Now, there are no specific plans in the works to accommodate these 700 redundant employees, but the minister is urging them to take advantage of current initiatives, the Food Assistance Program, the Unemployment Assistance Program, and the Department of Labor's Work Placement Project.
Every day, we have businesses that reach out to the exchange for new hires. So there are opportunities within the economy, no matter how small the business, to go and talk to the SBDC in terms of loan funding for your businesses.
Among other prospects,
The Point Development, which intends to hire some 500 to 600 permanent employees, and also Bahama Bay, their new development that they're opening in a couple of months. I think they are aiming to hire some 700 employees.
According to officials, no other hotels have hinted at similar actions. The tourism minister says he is still confident that things will improve moving forward.
So we are expecting a quick rebound, maybe not to the levels of 2019, but nonetheless, employment levels will begin to go back up. Sandals, for example, is opening on the first week of November. They're going to be taking back 980 employees. So you'll start to hear these positive stories as tourism improves.
Janelle Longley, Eyewitness News.
Well, members of the Rastafarian community are tonight telling Eyewitness News that they feel disenfranchised after reviewing the proposed draft of the marijuana bill that was leaked last week. Now they're also calling for members of the community to be given full access to the industry. Our intern, Devontae Hanna, has that.
Just days after proposed draft for the marijuana legislation was leaked, members of the Rastafarian community say although the decriminalization of the drug is a step in the right direction, they are not in full support of what is being presented.
We ain't seen nothing that for us as the Rastafarian community.
Honorable Priest Rithman McKinney, Royal Ambassador of the Rastafarian Congress, says the drug serves as a sacrament in their religion and they were disappointed that their recommendations to government were not included.
The Commission recommend that the Rastafari sacraments should be respected and also protected because it is a constitutional right. So that's for the Attorney General to acknowledge it and apologize also to the Rastafarian community. And they show that the sacrament rights was something first and foremost they push out in front to give the Rastafari rights before they even table anything else in Parliament. So.
Members of the Rastafarian community say they have been waiting with bated breath for this piece of legislation to be tabled here in the House of Assembly. They added that the criminalization of this drug infringes upon their religious rights and has left them feeling as though they're disenfranchised.
Continuously oppressing our whole community, financially and our social living, even come to our children, kicking down our doors, the 9 yard. Persons don't really speak on this over and over. Rastaman being oppressed and stigmatized and victimized.
On the other hand, Priest Ethelbert Harrison, Vice President of the Congress, says the bill lacks transparency.
We could see it leaves a lot of loopholes for unscrupulous acts by the ones who would be on the boards or the minister in charge at that time. It just leaves a lot of room for nepotism.
He says the greatest gift to the Rastafarian community would be the decriminalization of the drug. However, they say they want a piece of the pie too.
Definitely we want a stake within the industry. We've been the ones that suffered most, even though we agitate for everyone to have a fair stake, but at the same time, the Rastafari community, no one on this planet has been brutalized over marijuana the way we are.
Terry Miller, president of the Bahamas Cannabis Research Institute, adding that he doesn't understand government's motive behind leaving the community out of the bill.
What are you accomplishing? You're not going to stop them from performing their rights. So you just want to continue to criminalize them?
Members of the Rastafarian community says the bill creates a conundrum that they hope to resolve in the coming days when government tables the bill. Devontae Hanna, Eyewitness News.
Well, in news from the Crime Beat tonight, police are investigating the discovery of a partially decomposed body that was found in the area of the Blue Hill Sporting Complex. Police Press Liaison Officer ASP Audley Peters says they were called to the scene sometime at the soccer field around 11 a.m. after an employee discovered the body of a man lying on the ground. ASP Peters says foul play is not being suspected at this time. However, police have classified this death as suspicious. The body is suspected to have been in the field for approximately 48 hours, and police say the man was believed to be between 40 and 50 years old.
On the officers' arrival, they were directed to the northeastern corner of the soccer field, where they found a dark male lying in a fetal position on the ground. The detective examined the body, and there were no visible signs of injuries. Police will await an autopsy's report to determine the cause of death and the identification of the next of kin to determine the to members of the public who may have a relative that's not been seen for some time to contact the police. This person seemed to be a full-bearded, mid-aged male of dark complexion to report to the police.
Two teen boys were arraigned in the magistrate's court today in connection with the stabbing death of an 11th grade government high school student last week. A 15 and 16-year-old boys, both of Bozean Town, appearing before Magistrate Cara Turnquest DeVoe, charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Prosecutors allege that on May 18th, being concerned together, the teens intentionally caused the death of 15-year-old Kem Paul and attempted to kill another 16-year-old GSH student. Police say the two victims were in a corridor of the senior high school on the day in question when they were approached by the suspects. An altercation occurred, which resulted in the teen suspects producing a sharp-edged tool and allegedly stabbing the victims several times before scaling the school's fence and escaping. They were caught by police several days later. The 15-year-old had both parents in court today, and the 16-year-old had one guardian. The father of the murdered teen also appeared in court and cried during today's arraignment. The teen boys had no reaction. They were both denied bail and remanded to the Simpson Penn School for Boys until July 27th, and they are expected to return to court for a service of a voluntary bail indictment.